We're joined today at Nova Lab Studios in downtown LA by Lillie Vinci of Manhattan Solutions. Lillie, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Well, I just want to start by saying it was great meeting you guys in Vegas in August.
Yeah.
On my trip out here to Los Angeles. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah. It's funny how that worked out. I think we were both leaving. Probably, I don't know if you were leaving Vegas that day. We were checking out. And you were in the elevator and we were trying to hustle in. We had all our bags and you like held the elevator for us. And then, we were saying thanks. And you're like, yeah, I'd be pissed off if I had all those bags. No one opened the door for me. So I'm going to make sure I leave it open. And then we just kind of started chatting, exited the elevator. We kind of were talking a little more, found out what you do for work, what we do here. And then we found out you're actually moving to LA. You recently moved out here. And we said, all right, well, when you're settled in, hit us up. Maybe we can do something. And here we are a couple months later.
It sounds great.
Yeah, very interesting how that happened. Well, we thought we were just leaving. And we ended up having someone, a future guest that we ended up speaking to. So that was cool. So Manhattan Solutions is your company, right?
Yes.
So what do you do?
So what we do is we provide financing to small and medium-sized business owners. We are typically saying yes to the small to medium-sized business owners when the banks, obviously at this point, are just doing nothing but saying no. What we do is uncollateralized, unsecured loans that go anywhere typically from about $10,000 to $200,000, depending on the size of the business. And it really depends on the flow of the customer's business as far as how much they're making in deposits every month into their business bank account. And because we're alternative business lenders, we don't necessarily have to have the perfect credit customer or the perfect customer, actually. We're just looking for a customer who's in business for more than 3 to 6 months, deposits more than $5,000 or more into their business bank account.
Is that per month?
Yeah, and we can get them started on their way to, to building their business. And there is no set, and just so you understand, in today's environment, there is no set programs. We're trying to develop different programs for different business owners based on their industry and taking COVID into consideration. We've all been hurt by COVID. But we are here, my company and myself, to say that we will get through this. And one of my goals and my company's goals is to try to help as many American business folks as possible.
How long have you been doing this?
We were established since 2012.
2012, so almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Just you, or did anyone else work with you?
Well, I have certain salespeople that work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I tell them, it's more important that you build a relationship with the customer. You know who your customer is. And we're going to do everything in our power to try to keep that customer in business.
Yeah. I think I was telling you before we started, so I don't know how... And you can share in your experience too. Do you think people are overly familiar with like the third-party lending options, like outside of a traditional bank? Is that something that you think is commonplace knowledge?
I think that people know of it, but don't really understand it.
So go ahead, get into like maybe some of the details, how it works, in case, or if there's any like any skepticism you ever encounter, what it is, or any just hesitancy about how it works. Kind of what are the things you typically see and how you reassure people?
Well, let me explain first and foremost what we do and how it's structured.
Yeah, let's do that.
We do short-term, unsecured, and uncollateralized loans.
So what would that mean, unsecured and uncollateralized?
That means you don't have to put up any collateral. A lot of small business owners don't really have collateral to put up. They're just starting to build their business. Mm-hmm. And one of the main reasons that they might need money to build their business is because they want to buy collateralized type equipment, which might be a truck or a piece of equipment in a store that they need, or if they're a contractor, they may need a piece of equipment to do a job. But for whatever it is they need, they come to us to borrow that money. Now, when I say short term, I say it's usually anywhere between 6 months and an 18-month deal. Now, it sounds like, okay, so the customer has to borrow, let's say, $30,000 and pay it back in 12 months. It sounds like a lot of money and a short term to do it. Yes, but it forces the customer to grow his business quicker than he may want to grow his business. So what do I mean by that when I say that? Well, a typical bank loan is anywhere between 5 and 10 years. So if you're just making a monthly payment on one piece of equipment for 5 to 10 years, you now just basically are back to square one. You're not really growing your business as quick as you'd want to. But if you force yourself to pay off that piece of equipment within 3 to 6 months, or let's say 12 to 18 if you need that room, or if it's a bigger piece of equipment, then now you own the piece of equipment quicker and you can move on to the second piece of equipment. In our business, when you're halfway paid down the loan, the investor will come back like clockwork and ask you if you want more money. So if it's a 6-month deal, in 3 months, as long as you made your payments, the investor comes back and asks you more money. So it's a quick infusion of more money into the business.
And does that happen because they see, well, this person's making timely payments, they seem like a reliable person we can lend to, so if we can get more to them, let's get more to them.
Right. And the whole idea of lending to the business owner is so that the business owner can take that money and reinvest it back into the business and make more money. Whether it's buying inventory, whether, like I said, whether it's buying equipment, maybe fixing up a storefront, buying a sign for the storefront, advertising, any way that it could put the money back into the business and gain revenue.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel some people, like, a loan, the idea of a loan might be scary because, like, okay, I'm incurring debt. And kind of like you said, you're incurring debt, but in a way you're why are you taking it on? You got stuff to pay off, or you want to buy an equipment or a truck, whatever it might be, to help your business grow, to ultimately start making more money, to make more money, in whatever capacity it is, or by paying down debt, then you're improving your margins, whatever it might be. Kind of, can you think of like an instance where you had a prospective client, or that maybe you did make a client where they were kind of hesitant in any way? Maybe it was because they're like, I don't know if I don't know if I'll be able to make payments, stuff like that. How do you kind of have that kind of a prospective client and guide them to be like, you know what, you can make it work, and you kind of explain how it can be done? Well,
I'm so glad that you asked that question, because now that we have COVID, and also, just in general, there are a lot of business folks that are seasonal. And we do have investors that just recently we funded a deal where the guy said, I'm a trucking company and I'm a little busy now, but in January and February, I kind of slow up. And then in the spring, I get busy again. So the investor said to him, we can make your payments, a little bit higher now since you're making money. January and February, we'll cut them in half. And then back in March, when you start to pick up again, we can increase your payments. So as to say, we're only going to take money from you if you're making money. If you're not, then we'll take a lesser payment, and you'll still be able to get our loan and go out and buy a new truck and make more money from the purchase of that new truck. So it was the investor working with the customer to make sure they got the money to expand their business and make more money, but not the fear of having to pay it back, because they worked with the payment based on their bank statements to say, you can afford to pay it back, we're going to work with you.
Is that type of flexibility common?
Yeah.
Would you say it's more flexible within your space versus a traditional bank?
Oh, absolutely. because the investor a lot of time is making that it's their own money and they're making the decision.
Okay.
That's in some cases. In some cases, it's large institutions, and they have set programs, but these set programs will make room for the fact that either a customer is seasonal or could only have a certain percentage taken out of their account every day.
Right. Okay.
So like an example is, let's say you got a contractor. There's programs with larger investors where they'll only take 15% of whatever their deposits are. Because they only make, let's say, 3 deposits a month, but deposits they make are pretty big. So the investor will set it up, say, okay, whatever the deposit is, we're going to take 15% of it every time you make a deposit. If you don't make no deposits, we don't take anything, right? But if you make a deposit, we're going to take 15% of it. But we're going to still be able to give you that money right now for whatever it is you need to do to build your business. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of flexibility with it.
So how did the terms come to be decided ultimately? So that instance you gave, it was a percentage of the deposits. I'm sure you have maybe some more traditional ones where it's like you're going to pay a fixed whatever, $500 a month for 18 months until you pay off whatever. How do you guys determine that? You work with the customer, see what works best for them. You go to the investor, see what works for them. How do you figure that out?
Good. That's a great question. Well, first, I just want to clarify something. We normally, traditionally, do not do monthly payments. Our payments are normally Monday through Friday, no weekends, no bank holidays. Or we do have programs where the investor will take the money 3 times a week, or in some instances, they'll take it 1 day a week on a Friday, let's call it.
So typically payments are made daily? There's like increments or whatever?
Yeah, daily, Monday through Friday, no weekends, no bank holidays. And a lot of investors that I work with will do once a week. And there are investors that will do 3 times a week.
Interesting. I've never heard of that before, where it's again, I think, at least for me, what I'm used to is you have pay by the 5th. And then, whatever the minimum is or whatever that is, that's when you got to pay it by. Make sure you have it in by then. So that's a new thing to me hearing. Every day you got to make whatever the payment is.
Right.
So that's, up to 20, like 20 business days possibly in a month, you got to make payments. And I'm assuming it's a smaller payment. How does it work? So basically, like, imagine it's $300 a month you're supposed to pay divided by 20, make it in smaller amounts. Is that kind of the logic of it?
Yeah, it's not as low as that, what the number you said, but it really depends on the loan amount. But again, it's what you can afford when the file is underwritten. They'll make it so that the merchant can afford it. It's in our best interest to keep the merchant going, expanding, and coming back for more money to reinvest back into his business.
Are you seeing, for you personally, for your guys' business right now, or is it busier now since, like you were saying, maybe traditional banks might be harder for people to find a loan when they need it, especially now when they're on the verge of possibly shutting down again, or a business is almost done, they're barely hanging on. Are you seeing more people coming to you now as an alternative method?
I would say they have always come to us as an alternative method because of this. We're getting it done very quickly. We're getting them
how quickly?
From application to funding, we can get it done in 2 days, 3 days the most. Mm-hmm. So I have to say they've always come to us. But yeah, people are coming with scenarios. A lot of, the first thing out of everybody's mouth is, we didn't make any money, for like 3 months, or it wasn't, the bank statements aren't going to look that good.
Yeah, that's the opening statement.
And we know that, we get it. And I think that the investor knows that. It was unforeseen, an unfortunate event for everyone involved. And I'm just in a position where if I could help as many people as possible, that's what we'd like to do.
So let's go back. So 2012, you started. How'd you even get into this? How'd you decide I'm going to start my own shop?
So a friend, I was in the mortgage business before I got into this. And
How long were you in that space?
For maybe 5 years or more.
Okay.
And the mortgage business came tumbling down because we were on the wholesale end. And it basically, there was no business. It was over. And then a friend told me about this. I went to work for somebody for a very short period of time. I liked it. And I opened up my own company.
Did you have any experience running your own business prior to that? Like before you worked in the mortgage, did you have your own business or anything like that before?
Yeah, I would say that, my whole life, most of my life, I was working strictly off commission. So that's pretty much being self-employed.
Yeah, because you determine pretty much what's coming in.
Yeah.
It's up to you if you sell it or whatever. So how did you, like, is there like a trait in you or something? Like, is that something, for example, that you knew kind of growing up that you're inherently have like the selling ability in you or just wanting to sell to people? Or at least maybe if sell's not the right word, like to help people and whatever, to find something that suits them, a solution that works for them?
I think that to do what it is that I do, you seriously need to like folks. You need to like people, because basically I'm calling, I'm calling people out of the blue and having full conversations with them and being interested in what they actually do for a living and about their business. And, a lot of times it even goes into their personal life, my personal life. So I've always loved people. I've always got along with people. I've always had great interpersonal skills. And I think that I've always enjoyed business, And I think that, and I definitely like helping people. Definitely. So I think when you combine it all, I think, it works. I find people interesting. I find their stories interesting.
So is that kind of part of your routine then in a day, is you're making calls, trying to find, was it like essentially like cold calling for prospective clients?
All day long. That's what I've been doing for most of my life. Cold calling.
That's crazy, because I know, at least for me, when I see certain jobs like that, especially when I was younger, trying to find my initial job, when I would see that, I'm like, oh, that sounds so daunting. Just phone call after phone call, hang up, and then try and convince someone, wait, don't hang up on me yet. Let me try and tell you what I'm calling for. How do you kind of keep up at least now, obviously you've been doing it for some time, you're already second nature at this one, but how do you not get deterred by, will they even listen to me?
Well, because you're kind of calling individuals of, that had done this before in the past.
Oh, okay. So you kind of have like a book of business type of thing you're already
Yeah,
referencing.
and I go back a lot to people that say, you have to keep good records. Like if somebody says, call me January, that's normally when I borrow money. Then it's probably a good idea to like start to call them towards the end of December.
Mm-hmm.
Have a nice holiday, whatever. I just want to see, are you still going to be interested, after the holiday in borrowing money? Say, yeah, okay. Then you make a note and call them back, It's a lot of note keeping. It's a lot of following up. Yeah, I mean, I tell everybody, like, my job is very, like, taunting. It's the same thing over and over, But when you finally get somebody on the phone and they tell you that they need you, it was worth, like, maybe the other 20 calls where the person just said, I'm not interested, or whatever,
Yeah, I guess it's like a sense of satisfaction. You're able to help someone at a time where they need the assistance, or even if it's not like a dire need, but it's still helping them in whatever way to grow the business or whatever it might be.
And it's nice sometimes, like, when you call the customer back, like after like 3 months or whatever, and say, and they remember who you are. And some of the people even, like, I always tell my customers to lock my number in the phone, and they're like, yeah, your name came up. So it's nice to know that, that it works, that like, wow, you remember me. Like, I had to make 20 calls to get to you, but you remember me, and you remember our conversation, and, it's relationship building, and it's the right time too sometimes,
Yeah. So when you started this, how did you approach it? Because you said you talked with someone, they kind of introduced you to the space, you started doing your own thing. How do you even approach starting what you're doing now?
I had to buy my own leads, build a website, start relationships with investors, and it just takes time to build.
Is there like a licensing process, anything like that you got to go through? How's all that work?
No, there's no licensing process.
Oh, no, if there's someone that has the money to lend, You can just lend them?
Well, there's different investors. There's different
Yeah.
sized investors, smaller investors, medium sized investors, and big investors.
And finding them, again, it's just you're essentially calling people that might be interested in lending.
And then I'm hooking them up with the investor. I'm a broker.
Yeah.
That's all I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. So we're obviously in LA now. You're originally from New York, right?
Yeah.
And you were there up until 2 months ago, huh?
Yeah. My company name is Manhattan Solutions.
For a reason.
Yeah.
So how's it been for you transitioning here?
I love California. The weather is amazing. The mountains are beautiful. The ocean is beautiful. And I mean, there's a lot to see in California, right? It's the size of 22 states, I think, or something. So, and I know I have not seen, not even close to it. I've seen some of it.
Have you just been in the Southern California area so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
I think I've been up to as far as Huntington Beach, maybe.
Oh, okay. So like Orange County area.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually going down if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If San Diego's cool, if you haven't been there yet, that's a definitely spot I would recommend to check out.
That's what I'm saying. There's so much to check out, right?
Yeah. So have you noticed when you were in New York, were primarily your customers in New York, or can it work if you're wherever? Is it still easy finding reason I'm asking is so like now since you've been here, are you finding more clients now that are out of LA since you're in LA now? Were most of your clients in New York since you're in New York? Then how is your client demographic distribution?
Yeah, that's a great question. So basically, we lend money to folks all over the United States. So when we cold calling, we're not calling just one state. So I could have a folk in Arizona, I could have one in Oklahoma, anywhere in the country. It doesn't matter. So when I was in New York, I had customers all over the country, and now that I'm in California, I still have customers all over the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're working remotely essentially now,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
Always, yeah.
And it's always been like that. Has it always been you just kind of and we're working from home making things happen?
Yeah, I mean a couple of times at an office. But right now because of the pandemic, we're just basically working from home.
Yeah. So are your salespeople also scattered throughout?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. How'd you even find them before? Was it just like you put up a posting?
Some people do it part-time, some people, full-time. Just through conversations, what is it you do? I tell them what I do. I pretty much make calls throughout the country, tell people that we can have them pre-qualified for some money if they're interested. And some people say, wow, that seems like maybe something I can do, part-time or full-time, or if they've had experience cold calling, some people say, wow, that's something that I want to try out. And then some people stay with it.
Whenever they, so when they say that, you're like, all right, seems like you want to give it a shot. Do you train them? How does it work? What's your onboarding like? Are you typically, is it like a difficult process for you? And, especially if they're not by you, let's say if they're in wherever they are, they're in Wisconsin, you're here. How's that process for you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So with my onboarding process, well, now that we have FaceTime and we have the ability to see one another, I'll set up a meeting and basically go do what I'm doing now, basically go through and teach them everything that we do. I don't overwhelm. I have what we call a qualifying sheet, and I also have something called why we ask the qualifying questions. So I go through these things with the new employee, because that's basically when they get the customer on the phone, and the merchant says, yes, I'm interested in money. If they fill out the qualifying sheet, that's enough as far as the work they need to do. And they give me the qualifying sheet. Now I make the sale and they still get paid on it. It's a learning process.
Yeah.
So then when I get the product or whatever, I can explain to my salesperson why the merchant has gotten qualified for that product. And how I'm going to sell it. But, and initially the onboarding is basically doing a couple of, FaceTime or, online face-to-face sessions where they could ask me any kind of question and see me, and then I'll do some pitches and we'll do role playing back and forth. Yeah, and I talk to my anybody who works for me, and they have a question they know. I speak with them very often because I like to answer every question.
Yeah. So for you, the distance isn't an issue. It's you're doing your meetings, your scenario playing, all that stuff. You're able to do just simply FaceTime, whatever. It still works for you. It's a pretty seamless process for you, regardless.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So I was gonna ask. So if you have anyone that comes to you that's like they've tried the bank route before, or they want to try a bank route versus they're weighing their options. Now they've come to you, they're thinking about a bank, credit union, or whatever. Is your pitch usually to them like the biggest pitch, the flexibility piece? Because from everything you've described so far, that's what seems the most alluring part of it, is you have that flexibility. Is there something though that the bank has a leg up over this space? Is there like a thing that they have their advantage on?
Well, that's a great question, because I think that if you can get a loan from the bank, then you probably should get it, right? If you qualify and they'll give it to you right away when you need it, and you want those terms, then you should go to the bank. But 90% of my customers are being turned away from the bank. And that's why
for one reason or another.
Right. That's why they're coming to us. Beside the fact that the flexibility and the timing, right? So when I say flexibility and timing, I mean, we're giving you the money in like from 1 to 3 days from the application to funding, and the flexibility that we're willing to work out if you're seasonal or because something came up because of COVID. I don't think the bank's willing to do that. I think they're going to draw up a contract and you could either sign it or not. And it's on their time, what they want. And I'm not sure how long it takes.
Yeah.
And if they'll even approve you. That's the thing.
That's the other thing.
Right.
So the 1 to 3 days, you guys are able to make that happen kind of regardless of whatever the amount is, huh?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So when you say small to medium businesses, how do you guys define small to medium businesses? Is it by revenue?
Yeah, it's anybody depositing from $5,000 or more into their business bank account. Okay. So any trucking company, restaurants, I mean, any single business that you come across on a normal day.
Is there one type of business that you guys have more as clients versus another? Like you have more truckers, more restaurant owners, more whatever, barber? I don't know.
We used to do a lot of restaurants prior to COVID, and it killed a big part of our business off.
So I mean, you were in New York up until what? You came here in August, September?
Yeah, I was in Vegas where I met you guys, I think in the end of August.
Yeah. Was that already when you were in New York, came to Vegas, and then Vegas to here? Yeah,
I mean, I had driven from Brooklyn cross country, and then Vegas was one of my last stops, and I stood there a couple of days. I worked out of Vegas, and then I came to California. Yeah.
So reason I asked, so that first pretty much 5 months, more or less, you were in New York during the start of all this. So I think in terms of numbers, here in New York were some of the most impacted in terms of cases, I think even deaths too. What was it like for you over there seeing this unfold, from starting from March till the end of August or whenever you ended up leaving? Especially, you're thinking to yourself, you're a business owner too, and then you're seeing other business owners that you help, and you're seeing them starting to suffer. They're starting to possibly go under. What are you feeling? How are you reacting? Obviously, this is something no one's seen, expected, dealt with before.
I mean, it was devastating. Emotionally devastating. Insane. I mean, this is not something that we ever thought. Well, I can't speak for anyone else, but it's not something I ever thought that I would see in my lifetime, right? Because this. I mean, I don't know if it, was it biowarfare, right? But if it wasn't, it surely scared everybody into believing it was some sort of right? Could be possibly, right? And yeah, I mean, you didn't know. Were you going to be next?
Yeah.
I mean, that was my first like reaction before thinking about like business or whatever, anything like that. It was like health, like, oh my God, like, it was like how many people are going to get this? How many people are going to pass? Like, am I going to get it? That was instinct, the first instinct, like insane, like, wow, emotionally, like, it's scary.
Yeah.
Super, super scary.
So after I guess that initial wave of emotions you're having, you're obviously, like you said, I think for a lot of people too, they start thinking about their own health, family's health, friends' health, people close to them that might be more vulnerable, whatever it might be. So after you get past all that, because I think what's interesting, at least for your situation, is, again, given what you do, you're very close to this in that what you do for your work, you have the opportunity to help some of the most impacted people, especially now, right? Especially restaurant owners right now. And I don't know any other spaces too, but I'm thinking off the top of my head, the most impact that I can think of right now are restaurant owners, especially the small business restaurant owners, right? In New York, the mom and pop pizzeria, bagel shop, whatever, same stuff here. I mean, it sucks. You drive by it here, wherever I've driven by, and you see a place that normally might be packed is now not as crowded, or they're trying to figure out they're putting out little tents outside because now that's the only way they can serve people if they want to come in. Certain food you can't really have it delivered; it's not as good, whatever. So you see over time it went from nothing outside to like a couple seats outside. Now they have a whole setup. They're trying to figure out what to do, and then some other rule comes in that washes it away. But then you have the opportunity to help them if there's something to do. Like once you got past all of the emotions, were you kind of like, all right, let me see how I can help these people immediately? Were you kind of going straight to those people that maybe you with your own eyes were seeing, let's say in New York, impacted, and saying, hey, maybe we can make something work here if you're struggling?
Well, that's a great question. But what happened was, as soon as it happened, is the government came in and said, we're going to give relief packages to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, everybody was like, okay, I'm just going to hold off and I'm not going to take a loan. I want to get a relief package from the government.
Initially, yeah.
Yeah. So for like 2 months, everybody just got relief packages. So there was no business. I even got an SBA loan myself.
Yeah.
From the government.
Because, they were offering like stupid low rates, right?
Yeah. And you had to apply for it because
Right.
you had to cover your expenses for at least 1 or 2 months because nobody was doing anything but staying in the house.
Yeah.
Right? And all businesses were shut pretty much, right? For the first 2 months. So, yeah, so you took the loan because, first of all, you don't have to pay it back till a year from now. And it was a super low rate, super low payment. So from like March, April, and May, no one really did anything. Then it started little by little. Some of the investors came back. Some of the clients started, in certain industries. And now people want to borrow money again, and they want to get back to their lives, and they want to reopen, and they want to, prosper and move forward. But I think that what's happening, according to certain statistics, is the amount of cases are going up. And I don't know if that means the ratio of debts are going up. But it seems to me politically now they might want to start either not progressing towards opening up again, or maybe slightly degressing, or just leaving everything as is, But that doesn't help the business owner. But it's like I don't want to be the person making that decision,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's a matter of safety versus some people would say safety versus stupidity, but safety versus prosperity for some people, right? Because how much more could they take if you shut them down again?
Yeah.
Right? But if you don't, and people are getting sick, then that's a big dilemma for somebody to make as far as a decision maker, right? So, and you see that the decision makers now are trying to say we might have to shut it down.
Yeah, it's unfortunate seeing that, but then yeah, again, it's very messy because let's take a look at Vegas. We were there recently, right? So the first time they shut down, I think Las Vegas specifically, or maybe it was Nevada as a whole, was like one of the worst impacted states in terms of unemployment. When you can imagine why,
Right.
Primarily, I think the hospitality industry, I think, is the biggest one there. So all those people now are not working; they're furloughed, whatever, because no one's going. So now they're finally back. But I was reading the other day that they might be closing again, as they might hear. And then at that point, you kind of start thinking what you were just mentioning. It's like, how are these people going to make it? I'm not even talking about the businesses. I mean, they're big multi-billion-dollar corporations. Fine, let's not discuss them right now. Just the people itself, the dealers, the janitors, whatever, the people working there, now they're going to have to get furloughed or laid off again. How are these people going to make it? So it's tough. I don't know. Like, I think about it, and again, I think about like the small business owners here too, that they need the foot traffic coming in. So then if you say they can't come in, it's like, well, so what are we supposed to do now? And then it's like, what? Now we got to pass another government relief package or something, and then increase debt like that even more, and then increase people's reliance on government more. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's just messy, to say the least. And again, like we were saying, it's not something I think even the politicians know how to deal with, because I can't think of anything that's happened to this extent before. Maybe it's happened, I don't know off the top of my head. But it's like, so what are you supposed to do? And a lot of this is for people like even the politicians are picking up on the fly. Like, all right, well, how do we handle it? I don't know. I feel bad for the businesses, but you're kind of again in the opportunity to try and help. Now again, you're seeing, like you said, some businesses are like, all right, I feel comfortable now. Maybe I've had something start coming in now. Maybe there's some money I can pick up. And like you said, you guys try and work with the ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on that, we definitely are willing to try to work with anybody who feels like they're going to move forward as far as their business is concerned, where maybe these type of shutdowns won't affect them as much, like maybe like truck drivers that still have to deliver the food, maybe certain food stores that need to be open that will continue to stay open. I guess repair shops. I guess there's going to be certain businesses that they say that they have to stay open.
Yeah, the essential business.
The essential. Yeah. We're willing to work with any business owner, right? And they haven't really shut it down yet, so we go day by day.
Have you ever considered doing it on the regular consumer side? Regular like personal loans as opposed in addition to the small business ones? Is that something you ever considered, or you're just more interested on the business side?
Yeah, I've never considered it.
Is there a particular reason? I'm just kind of curious.
Nah,
just more interested on the business side.
Yeah, it's just what I do.
Okay. Yeah. I was just kind of curious because I was just thinking about that. I was like, I know she mentioned the business so you don't do the personal, but I was wondering if there was a reason. So just niche. You're more on the business side. Cool. I want to kind of get to a part of this now where kind of talking about some maybe common questions you get, because for people again that are maybe not as familiar with alternative lending options, what are some of the most common questions you think that you've heard whenever you get a prospective client that's like, hey, I don't know how this works, I'm not quite as familiar versus traditional options, or even they might not be familiar with just lending options in general? What are some of the most common questions you get and the responses you provide, just so we can kind of give the viewers an idea, and maybe some of those questions are stuff they've been thinking about too?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the biggest questions you're going to get like right off the bat is, what's the rate? And so I'll explain it. So we really don't have a rate. We have the cost on the money. So I did mention earlier that these deals are short-term, unsecured, and uncollateralized loans. And let me explain what I mean by the cost on the money. Let's say you borrow $100,000 and you pay back $125,000. So the cost on the money was $25,000. But these type of loans do not compound and they do not accrue interest like traditional bank loans. So a simple bank loan may do compounded simple interest or just regular compounded interest. It just depends on what type of loan they give you. With our loan, it's a set amount, it's set in stone. So whatever you agree where they're going to lend you money, you also agree in the contract as to what you're going to pay them back. So again, I'm going to tell you it doesn't accrue and it doesn't compound. But now, you take that same $100,000 and let's say you have it at 6% and you accrue and compound that interest over 5 years, you will be paying a lot more than $125,000 back to the bank. And on top of that, your business is on hold for 5 years because you have to pay back the $100,000 in order to borrow more money to expand your business, right? It takes 5 years. With us, if you had a 12-month term deal, in 6 months you'd be halfway paid down, and at that point, like I reminded you earlier, we would infuse more money into your business after you're halfway paid down. So it's a quicker way of you actually expanding your business quicker and infusing more money into your business and buying more stuff with it as quick as possible. Instead of having the bank, be paid back, yes, once a month at a very low payment. And by the time you pay back the bank, you're going to pay them back way more than $125,000,
So whenever I get a loan with you, like you said, before anything is finalized, it says, all right, so you want $100,000, you're going to be paying now X for the cost of money. So if it's $25,000, whatever. So the person already knows that ahead of time. Like right when they're signing whatever, right? It's like, all right, so it's going to cost you $125 for the 100 you wanted, pretty much.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, you know exactly what it's going to cost you. It's set in stone. It's not like, oh, well, if you hold a loan 5 years, it'll cost you that much. But if you want, you could hold a loan 10 years and then it'll cost you $210,000 to pay back, because it compounds or accrues every single month. Where this is, we're going to force you to move your business quicker at a quicker rate. And every couple of months, we're going to infuse some money into your business so that you can grow. You can buy inventory. You can buy trucks. You can buy machinery. You could buy a new sign. You could buy new chairs.
All right.
Whatever.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions you kind of get frequently? I figured, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, what's the rate on that?
Yeah. That's like the number one question.
Yeah. I think it's a fair thing, right? Obviously, people want to know, all right, I'm going to get money. What's it going to cost me to get the money?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it makes sense, that one. Any other common ones you get?
They'll
ask about terms, probably.
Yeah, the terms. And, we don't do any type of bank loans. We don't do SBA. We don't really do lines of credit.
Mm-hmm.
We do alternative, short-term, unsecured loans. Normally, Monday through Friday payment, sometimes 3 times a week payment, and sometimes once a week payment.
You said it was 6 to 18 months? Or that's typically the duration of your loans?
Yeah. Anywhere between 6 to 18 months. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna ask something else about the duration. Oh, this is what it was. So, so you've been doing this now 8 years. Any crazy stories? Anything where, a certain client or something that was, maybe difficult, or if not a client, maybe prospective client, any kind of stories that you've had dealing with difficult people, how you're able to deal with them in the 8 years of having your own shop?
Oh, well,
Especially in the financial service space, I'm sure stuff comes up.
There's a lot of different people, and then so many different people have different personalities, right?
Right.
So that's all I can say. Is you gotta be able to handle whatever comes at you. And trust me, there's a lot coming at you some days.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're talking to 50 people with 50 different personalities, right? one guy's he's got a good day, and another guy's not such a good day.
Yeah. Well, kind of the last thing I can think of off the top of my head that I want to ask that I'm kind of curious to know about. So you started 2012, so economic recession was a few years before that. So the economy's generally been pretty good during the time you've been doing it. Have you ever thought ahead like, okay, if in case something happens, kind of like now, but like an extended period of time, we're hoping this ends soon, but like I said, like a legitimate economic crash happens. Is that something you think your type of business is impacted by, or do you think you're going to be the one helping in the recovery process? Because again, right, let's say something happens, restaurants are impacted, other types of businesses you work with are impacted. So do you think you're going to be on this aiding side, or like how do you think it's going to be when it comes to like your investors too? Is that something you've kind of thought about, how that might impact?
You mean if we go into a recession based on what's happening now?
Is that something that would impact the alternative lending space, you think, negatively? Or do you think you guys are going to be more on the offensive helping the businesses that are impacted by it?
Well, look, I'm not sure that going into a recession is good for anybody by any means. And it would probably put a lot of small business owners out of business, if you want me to be honest. Because I think a lot of people are on the fence right now. I don't know where it would leave us, to be quite honest. I think there's always going to be folks that need money and that will be able to help.
That's what I'm
even during a recession. But again, it's going to be business owners that can prosper during it.
Right.
And that want to build their business. And then we'll be there to give them money, because at that point, then the bank's really going to shy away.
Definitely, yeah. You know, especially when if it's a business that's now completely revenue's gone down or almost entirely eliminated. Now try going to a bank, show your statements, and pitch to them, hey, can you lend me money?
I don't know the real statistic of how many small to medium-sized business owners are going to go out of business because of this whole pandemic situation.
I don't think there's even anything out, but unfortunately, I would think it's probably a considerable amount already.
Yeah, but I would think it's probably more than most think.
I would hope not, but unfortunately, it does look like that. I mean, just driving, even here alone on our street. I don't know if you noticed, maybe walking up the street from where you parked, those places were open earlier. Now they've completely pulled out.
Right.
They just kind of throw in the towel. They're like, I don't think we're going to be able to come back from that. And then, I don't know if we're going to be able to find money to even, infuse ourselves to try and give us some life. So that's kind of part of also why I wanted to talk, so to show there's other options. It's not just, oh man,
there's light at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, it's not just the bank's not giving me money, I can't get money. There's others. There's a reason, it's called alternative lending, right?
Yeah, we want to try to keep as many people in business in America as we can. And we all together, we will make it through this. We will. We're going to come out the other end.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's a great note to wrap up on. Lillie, where can people find more about the company, your information, website, all of that? Please let us know.
Yep. Great question. So my website is www.manhattan, MANHATTAN, solutions with an S, SOLUTIONS, USA.com. My name is Lillie Vinci, and my contact number is 917-647-7966.
And we'll put all that in the description as well. Any Facebook or anything that people need that can reach for the company, just stick to the website and the phone number. Great. We're going to put that there. That's Lillie. Thank you very much, Lillie, for sharing all this, for coming on. And we'll let you know when this is coming out. We think hopefully this week, so then we can get this out to everyone so they can learn more about this. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
You got it.